Welcome to The Clean Slate, a podcast where we chat about facilities management, commercial cleaning, and keeping the working world safe, clean, efficient, and free from risk. I'm your host, Trista Sobek. Tell me the story again about Dennis's 7 Ds and where that came from and and then go a little bit, if you could, go a little bit into what you guys do up in Oregon.
Sure. Dennis's 7 Ds is a local landscaping and garden center in Portland, Oregon. And it used to be called 7 Ds almost 70 years ago, actually. That's how long this has been around. We're nearing 70 years in just a few short years. I think we're at 67. Anyway, it used to be called 7 Ds because the family had 7 kids that all started with the letter D. Dean, Drew, Dave, Dennis, Drake, and I can never remember the other 2 because they're not involved in the landscaping at all. But, so in time,
all boys?
No, not all boys.
Oh, okay.
In time, the brothers all started landscaping in the back of the garden center, and then they took over from their dad, and Dennis bought most of the company, and so it was Dennis's 7 Ds, and then one of the brothers wanted to branch off and do his own thing, so he has Drake's 7 Ds, so both of them now operate in the market, and yeah, it's just a fun story. Dean, Drew, and Dave still work as part of Dennis's, but Dennis is retired. I've never even met him. But yeah, it's kind of fun. And now even the 3rd generation is involved in the family business as well and do IT or marketing or other various things throughout the company. So it's a very, very family oriented.
And 70 years of greenery and landscaping. And has the company always, and then I'm going to ask you questions about you, but I'm just kind of backing into it. Has the company always focused on landscaping or urbanscapes for buildings, or is that fairly new?
No, it's definitely morphed over the years. It actually started as a rhododendron and azalea nursery, and then it kind of morphed into a garden center, and then they added the landscaping. So we've only been doing landscaping for probably about half that time, 30, 40 years. And then urban plantscapes, which is what I focus on primarily. I do interior scaping for commercial spaces. And we just started this division. I believe it's been about 8 years now. Yeah, about 8 years. So it's still pretty new compared to the rest of the company. It's still like a baby division, but it's been super fun to help grow this part of the company and come up with new ideas and just really restructure it so that it is set up for growth. So it's been really fun to be a part of.
Fantastic. So did the company grow this arm because you came in and because of your background, or did it?
No, I wish that would have been way cooler, but my background is in commercial landscaping. Well, I got my degree in horticulture, so I do love being part of the green industry in general. I've worked on golf courses and in flower shops, plant shops, and I started my career after college doing account management for commercial landscaping. And I started in Portland, and I saw there was another company in the area that just had really good quality. And I really liked their branding and I just liked their culture. And they had an interior division. I mean, it was still kind of brand new, but they got to do plant decor, which is so fun. And then they also got to do Christmas decor, holiday decor throughout the city. So I was born in December, and so I love Christmas. So I was like, that sounds like a dream job. Like, how is that even a job? So I started networking with them, and right time, right place, I hopped over, and just got trained up to be their sales and design person. And as soon as I think I had like a month of mentorship and training, and the person who was running the department retired. So it's been fun to kind of step into those shoes and be in a leadership position with this department and help it morph and grow.
That's awesome. What a great story, and what a great opportunity for you. So I want to find out, how does one get interested in horticulture and decide to major in it in college? And then with that, I feel like a lot of things have unfolded in the facility space where we're really focused on wellness. And it's not just like, let's have green trees in the office buildings because it looks nice. Like there's reason behind it and psychology behind it. So how did you get interested in it? And, what do you think you're bringing to your job and the community at large right now?
Well, I actually started studying music when I went to college. I was going to be a music educator. But then I just ran into a lot of hurdles. I had tendonitis in my wrists. I couldn't play the cello or the piano for very long. And then I got vocal nodules in my throat, so I couldn't sing as much as I was singing 8 to 10 hours a day sometimes for training, singing opera. So it was kind of crazy. So I took a break for a little while, and I met a lot of other people who had gotten degrees in horticulture. They were working on tree nurseries, or they had greenhouses, or working on farms in North Idaho. And they had gotten horticulture degrees. Some of them had gotten agriculture, business degrees, agviz, whatever. And but this one guy I talked to, he's like, no, I got horticulture. There are so many other things you can do besides agriculture with plants. And I was like, oh, that's really cool. I thought I would have to get a biology degree, and I got a C in biology in high school. So I was like, I don't think that's for me. But I went back to school for horticulture, and all the classes were so fun and so easy I think just because I had more of an interest in it, more of a passion. And then, as I went back to school, I started working I guess I'll back up a little bit. I struggle with seasonal depression. I feel like most human beings do to a degree.
Especially in the Pacific Northwest.
Especially up here. You gotta be taking extra vitamin D pills and maybe getting those sun lamps for that extra happiness. But so I struggled with seasonal depression, and I started working in a greenhouse one winter. Just watering the plants, taking care of them, shuffling projects around, lots of student research projects, etc. And I noticed that I did not have any seasonal depression that year. I didn't experience any depression. It was crazy awesome to me. It was a huge breakthrough. So I became incredibly passionate about the power of plants on our mental health. And I just kept researching it and studying it more and seeking out studies that people have been doing on the effects of plants on our health, mental health, physically, mentally, and emotionally. And now I actually teach a few CEU courses about what biophilic design does in all of those facets. Biophilic design being biophilia is how we feel about nature, how we're connected to it emotionally. And biophilic design is just bringing nature indoors.
So what do you say to people? So I've done podcasts and a lot of research, and obviously this podcast is on facility management. So it's a lot of, we've looked into talking about machinery and technology and sensors on doors and all the mechanical part of a building. But I love this idea, and I love having you on here because when I first heard about facility management, to me, I'm like, that's people. That's people oriented. Who is in your building? People, right? It's not just the hardware. The hardware and the software are very, very important. You need all that to keep your business running, but you need the people. And I'm so excited that first of all, that you're part of IFMA in Washington and Portland in the chamber there. Because that's bringing this human element back. And if the people in our buildings are not happy and are not, able to perform, we have a lot of mental health issues, especially now after COVID. That's all been uncovered. We need this. So I think you're doing an amazing job and bringing all this to light. And IFMA is very, very lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you.
What do you ever get looks oh, you're, like, oh, you don't know how to work a machine, or you're not a machinist, or you're not in software or technology. When you talk about this, are people really open and excited about the idea about the human side, the human element?
Yeah, I think people are really excited about it. I mean, we have so many diverse vendors, part of our chapter of IFMA, and they actually were my first kind of family that I made when I moved up here. I didn't have any friends or family when I moved to Portland. And so one of the first, my boss invited me to a coffee meeting with the current president of IFMA. And that's how I got involved with the chapter. And her and I became quick friends, and she got me involved in the programs committee really quick. She's not, she snatched me in there, but it was such a good group of people, and they really help each other network, like find like, oh, this person needs a roofer for their building. Like, we have this preferred vendor over here, or we have this trusted person here for plumbing. And it's just a really collaborative group. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, I think people were really supportive. Plus, I think there is that attitude here of know what your expertise is and rely on that person. Like, don't feel like you have to know everything. Like, especially in facility management, there are so many things you have to know. You have to know about safety. You have to know about all the plumbing and the electrical and roofs and painting and carpets and furniture and keeping people happy and changing the temperature. And are there snacks? And, there's just a million things to think about, and you shouldn't have to be the expert. And so I think one of the values that IFMA brings to the table for facility managers is having a network of people that are experts in whatever you need. So you just pick up the phone and call them and like, hey, solve this problem for me. So I take a lot of pride in our chapter in knowing that we have that network, we have that reliability, and we have that teamwork. So if anybody has any questions about landscaping, exterior stuff, safety, environmental issues, permits with the city, or getting plants in their office or whatever it is, they can just call me and I can help them out. Whether or not they work with me, I love helping them figure out the answer. Yeah.
Right. So I love this idea because I feel like right after COVID happened, when we all had to go back, and we were all traumatized into going back into offices. Yeah. And, mental health really became, I think a little bit before that, but it really became at the forefront, and we have terms like Sunday scaries. Yeah. Do you have your Sunday scaries? And so do you have Sunday scaries at your job, or do you feel like the plants are helping you?
Actually, yeah, there are times my job is super stressful. I just have there's just a lot of projects going on at once. So the multitasking is a bit insane. And then I am currently the president of our IFMA chapter here in the Oregon Southwest Washington chapter. So that takes a lot of my time every week. And not to mention, I'm also involved in a lot of other networking associations just to do business developing. So sometimes I'm double booked in an evening to go to networking events, or triple booked sometimes. Like, it gets kind of crazy. But for the most part, though, I really love my job, and I look forward to seeing my projects get completed and seeing happy customers. There's stressful moments in every project, or, pulling your hair out moments working with complicated people or impossible deadlines, etc. But in the long run, my team is really reliable, and we get to do really fun and unique things throughout the city. Like, we just finished this summer, we installed a living wall at the Ritz-Carlton in downtown Portland. They just built a brand new Ritz-Carlton. It's like the jewel of the city. And we have a living wall with the Ritz-Carlton logo on the center of it. And it's right at the front entry. So everyone can drive by and see it. Everyone across the city has been seeing it and messaging me about it or taking pictures with it. And so it's just really fun to be part of the community like that. Like, where I feel like I'm going to be part of the Ritz-Carlton now because I got to design that project. Like, it was very cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. And by the way, can you send me pictures of
absolutely.
that? So then I can put that on our webpage. I would love to see that. I think, I was doing some research before we hopped on this call, and I saw that about 12 billion working days are lost every year due to someone feeling anxious or someone feeling depressed, which relates to something over, $1 billion of just loss because people are anxious or, they can't come to work because they're feeling anxious about something or they're sad, which is all normal. We're all humans. But I think facility managers do have a bit of a responsibility to care for the people within their buildings. And if they can do that through something as, I don't want to say simple because plants aren't simple. They're very,
it is.
Right?
Yeah, you're not going to offend me by that. Yes, it's an easier solution than, trying to find the right chair or placing you next to the right person, or, it might not be the cheapest solution ever. People are surprised when plants are not $20. But it is still, it's like a simpler solution that you can add to help ease those burdens. And don't even get me started on these statistics and numbers. The ROI that people can save by investing in plants is huge. You were talking about anxiety and just getting distracted and everything, but also just presenteeism. There are so many butts in seats does not mean work is getting done. And that, I think, is just increasing at a rapid rate, especially after COVID. I don't have the numbers memorized, but I would say presenteeism it's not a new term, but it is getting kicked around a lot more as we come back to the office space because people are on social media or they are just scheduling a bunch of meetings throughout the day, back-to-back Zoom meetings, and then they're not actually getting any work done. Or then in turn, they have to go home and work when they put their kids to bed, they're sending emails at midnight, that's still happening. And anyway, but I think a big push for plants, at least from my perspective right now, is it gives you more creativity, more productivity. 15% more creativity is happening in places with greenery. There's 12% more focus and alignment. Let's see what else is there. And even if you, on the low end of that, there are studies on the low end where it's 6%, but you're still increasing the work that's getting done. I actually know I have a colleague in Texas, a company called Natura, and they created an ROI calculator on their website. So if you want to check out their website, it's Natura HQ. But they have an ROI calculator and you can put in, let me just see if I can pull it up right now really quick, but you can put in how many people that you have in the office and the average salary. And then you can put in how much money you invest in your plant program every month. Is that 200? Is that 500? Is that 1,000? How much money are you paying for someone to come water your plants? And some people purchase, some people rent them, so it's a different, so the number of people, and then you put in the salary, and then you can slide the bar on how much you think productivity is increased. You can slide it all the way down to 6, or you can increase it all the way to 24% if you're a real optimist. Or, if you work at Amazon Spheres, I don't know if you've seen the Amazon Spheres in Seattle, but they are incredible. Go Google it right now. They are a glass dome, and it is Amazon's headquarter office, and they get to work in a jungle. It's very cool. They basically work in a cool sphere greenhouse, biodome thing. So you can slide the scale. And if you're skeptical, let's see, I'll just put it to 10% here. I'll put the average of plants that we spend about $420 a month. We'll have 100 people in the office. I'll make it a nice round number. 100 people. And the average salary will make $65,000. Let's see. We'll do 70. And then the performance will do 10%. So the ROI here, it's saying we're getting where's the number? It has $1. We are going to gain $770,000 in productivity over the year by just having people being more productive with plants in the office. So I mean, that's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And in this day and age, every little bit helps. And, we're trying, we say we have a worker shortage and we have a shortage of everything. It's like, well, if you want to come into the office and have workers there and be present and also want to stay working, you have to keep them happy. And if the key is, a plant, why not? So, why are plants like this? What is it?
Yeah, so we don't honestly know a lot, but we do know a few things. So we have a parasympathetic and a sympathetic nervous system in our bodies, and they regulate either our flight or flight mode, and then they also just help us relax, help us regulate our bodies, like our circadian rhythm, our immune systems, sleep schedule, all that. So those two nervous systems work together, and when they work in harmony, that's where you find homeostasis. So everyone wants to be, not constantly, because, you do have to have moments of stress. That means you're alive. But the goal is to have lots of homeostasis moments throughout our lives. And just being in nature, there's something about the MU receptors in your brain when they see plants, nature, greenery, waterfalls, blues and greens, just nature in general. It sends a signal back to your brain of pleasure and just calms the nervous system down. Like, it slows your heart rate down. Your body just naturally feels safe and like where it's supposed to be. I mean, if you think about the history of human beings, we have lived in nature for, thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And only recently on that scale of history have we started to be in urbanized settings, and now we're in concrete jungles, and the rate of sickness has skyrocketed. I mean, before 2020 happened, before the pandemic happened, the World Health Organization predicted that heart disease would be the number one death rate. But obviously that was the pandemic instead. So, but I mean, if we just focus on bringing in nature more into our built environment, we can avoid a lot of these issues that are coming from we're inside 90% of the time of our lives, on average. So, and I saw another thing you were talking about, as facility managers, we're focusing on the people inside, and people are the highest cost for a building's operating expenses. I mean, we focus so much on like, our light bulbs energy saving, our toilets energy saving, like how many flushes are we saving, and how much energy are we saving throughout the building? But energy usage is only 1% of a typical building's costs. 90% of a building's costs are people's salaries, workers' comp, those snacks in the vending machine, and any amenities, if you're offering those, like gyms or any wellness programs or tenant events or things like that. And so that's where 90% of all what goes on in a building, that's where most of your cost is going to.
Right. So you might as well invest in those people. And if it's something as simple as plants, why not? I did. You were talking about studies, and I did come across a study that happened in Japan, and they put people in front of just plants. And they hooked them up to an EEG machine to measure brainwaves. And then they also put them in front of a concrete wall. And the brainwaves were a lot more conducive to creativity and thought when the plant was there. When the wall was there, it was kind of just, people start wandering, their minds start to wander, start thinking about other things. Yeah, they're bored. But, there is something about that putting us back to a natural state where a lot of times our bodies know things before our minds do, and learning to trust ourselves a little bit more. And when there's, think work going on in an office, this can just be a plus for anybody working inside an office trying to come up with new ideas, which is why Amazon, which is one of the biggest, brands and companies in the world, and they've come out with huge out of the box ideas that companies all over the world are trying to emulate, that's why they're doing that, because they know that having something like this, if you put a worker in a jungle setting, what's going to happen, when they're in the middle, they're going to come up with some really creative things. So that's why they're doing it. And I think that is just really interesting.
Speaking of that, Microsoft has a treehouse that is used as a conference room in Seattle too. It's literally up in a tree, and they just built a big conference room treehouse thing. You can Google this too. It's really cool looking, but there's no additional AV in the treehouse. You can't do a projector screen or do a call in. Everyone will bring, people will bring their laptops in, but you are connecting with each other in a different way and just trying to stretch that creativity brain. And just I was reading an article about it, and somebody was like, yeah, we got so much more done in 2 hours in a completely different way than we would have in a normal conference room. And it's just, thinking outside the box.
Right. I love that. What has been your favorite installation to date? Is it the Ritz-Carlton, or is it something else?
I mean, just because for the notoriety of the Ritz-Carlton, I think is really cool, but it actually was a very complicated project to work out, so it wasn't very fun to do it in the middle of it. Let's see, most fun project. I think there's been quite a few, especially when clients let me have creativity, because a lot of my clients, they already know what they want, or they have a vision from corporate that they were like, this is what we need it to look like, or whatever it may be. These are our colors, blah, blah, blah. But when I get the chance to be super creative and look at a space and suggest oh, what would be really impactful here if we did this, this, and this, and then the client moves through with it, that's really empowering to me and just feels really good. Let's see, I'm trying to think of a specific one. I had a little autonomy with the Oregon State Treasury building. We did 3 panels of 30-foot tall moss art in their stairwell lobby area. So it's really impactful when you kind of walk into the building, and it's 2 levels. I mean, it's 30 feet tall. So the second level office cubicles can look over the top of their cubicle and still see all the moss art pieces rising up from the second floor. And then the same with the first floor. Cubicle spaces can all see that moss art too. So, and they have huge, they have huge floor ceiling windows, and then they have a bunch of skylights. So the natural light that flows into that building is incredible. The architect firm, GBD Architects, really focused on biophilic design biophilic design doesn't just mean plants. It also means natural light. Right. Yeah. It means, natural wood, grain, anything that evokes a memory even of nature or mimics nature. So it can be, tile work that looks like stone, or it can even be fire or water or just smells or sounds of nature. So they really focused on bringing the aspect. They went around Oregon and studied all the different nature features that we have here, the Columbia Gorge, the mountain forests, the lakes, the rivers, the ocean, and even the desert out on the east side of Oregon. And so they just kind of incorporated different aspects of that into the design. So it's a really cool building to be in.
That's amazing. And then now I just have a very specific question. So as far as, water, and are these installations set up to self-water, or, is it kind of, does somebody have to come in and spray them? How is that? So it's not like you don't have these, dying plants on the wall.
Absolutely. It would sad. Really suck to pay so much for an investment and then have it die on you. So we do offer a service of watering. We have a team of plant technicians that go once or every other week to all of our clients, and they water all the plants. Some of our living walls do have irrigation systems in them, so they run pretty frequently, just because those plants are a lot smaller in the living walls usually, so they'll dry out a lot faster. But those kind of run by themselves, but everything else, we have a plant technician come to the site, and not only will they water the plants, but they also clean off the leaves because they get dusty, and they'll rotate the plant because plants like to grow towards the light. And I'm sure not every plant in every office is going to have light coming straight down it, like this guy right here has a nice grow light over him. But anyway, it's a nice service to have to make sure your plants are looking clean and sharp and always looking their best.
Yeah. Two questions. What is your favorite plants? And how did you feel when this whole plant trend really started hitting, I would say, younger people? People are like, I'm a plant mommy, I'm a plant daddy. They have all their plant babies, so what is your insight in that? What is happening here?
It was really cool actually, because it did make it easier to kind of market what I'm doing. And a lot of the younger property managers definitely put more influence when they're taking my proposal forward to their bosses. So I think it helped business a lot. Especially with COVID, people are going home and they're at home with all of their plant babies, and they don't want to go to the office if they can work in a better setting. Like, so many people are like, why would I go to the boring, cold office when I can get more work done here? Depending on who you are, there's debates on that, how productive you are at home. But I think people have realized that in order to get people back to the office, you do have to have that residential feel to an extent. You want to make it feel like somewhere they want to be. So it definitely helped business, to be honest. As far as my favorite plant goes, I don't know. That's a tricky one. There's so many good ones out there. I think I like a Dracaena Ricky right now, and it's a really cool plant. It's in the Dracaena family, but it has very thick leaves, similar to a Sansevieria or a snake plant. They're just thicker and tougher leaves, but they look kind of palmy a little bit. I don't have one near me, but they're a really cool plant. And they have a variegation, like a line. They're dark green leaf, but then they have a lime green variegation running down the middle of it. So it's cool. And it really pops with either black, or even I've put it standing up next to blue walls. It really just has that big pop on it.
Nice. Gonna look those up. Very cool. So I'm wondering if the plant thing kind of happened with not anybody really thinking about it. People are like, I'll just get a plant, right? And then all of a sudden you're feeling better. You're feeling, and I know I have all these plants all over my house now.
Yeah.
But I don't think, I put it together where if I'm around plants, I feel better. It was just
right.
I like all these plants. And now that I have now it kind of puts it together for you a little bit more, where people like you are like, well, yeah, of course you're going to feel better when you're around plants. So, we're just seeing it happen, on Instagram and TikTok and in real time. And, something you've been studying for forever. So I think that that's really fascinating, and that it's making its way into the working world.
Right. I think there's another facet to that as well. People just wanted to have something to care for, have that nurturing aspect. And I think the younger generation's waiting a lot longer to start families, have kids, or maybe they can't have pets wherever they are, or, maybe they have both or whatever. But having that, I think that also played an effect in the younger generation on why they latched on to being plant parents so easily. But just having, and it's also a gauge for me personally at my house. When my plants start looking really sad, I know my mental health is suffering. I know.
Something's wrong.
I'm stressed out. I'm really, I'm worked up or whatever. I check in with myself. If I do kill plants, which is hilarious that, I had my friends pick me up from a surgery one time, and they came into my house, they got me dinner or whatever. They're helping me get situated. And I had 3 or 4 dead plants in my living room. And I just thought like, oh, eventually I'll just grab one from work, like a toss away from work, and I'll bring it home, or whatever. Like I wasn't worried about it, but then they came into my house and they're like, aren't you the plant lady of Portland? Like, why do you have dead plants in your house? I was like, well, you know how you do something at work all day and then you come home and you don't necessarily want to keep doing that thing.
My mom used to say the cobbler's children have no shoes.
Yeah, exactly. So. My landscaping also looks atrocious right now. So that's just how it goes.
Well, we only have a certain amount of time in the day, to take care of things. But I like that. Like, if you're not feeling great, take a look at your plants. Are they turning yellow? Maybe that's a symptom that you haven't been taking care of them or yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a nice little gauge. So I think that's amazing. Would you like to add anything? I think we covered so much. I mean, do you want to talk a little bit about IFMA? I know you kind of did about like the networking and what they've done for you, but how did you first get into them?
It was just meeting the right people, and they were so inviting to bring me in. And then it was beneficial for business just because I feel like maybe not so much the interior plants. I don't necessarily work with facility managers as much, but definitely on the landscaping side of things for outdoors, just to make sure. I mean, landscaping is the first impression that people have when they pull up to your building. It definitely can make it look really fancy and like your building is operating on all cylinders, or it can make it look like, oh, wow, you guys don't take care of anything because you have a bunch of weeds everywhere, or your bushes are not trimmed, or whatever it is. So landscaping can really be that first impression when people come to your building. I think just connecting with people locally, and it was a faster way to meet people in the industry, just to have that connection. It's just a good way to learn the city really fast when I first moved here. I also love the programs that we put together for our chapter because I learn something new every single time, whether it's about energy usage or electric vehicle charging or whatever it is. I get to learn cool things so that when I go out and like cold call with facility managers, I have some sort of knowledge about what they're dealing with day to day, so I can relate to them a little bit more. Like, I'm not just a girl that just knows about plants. Like, I also know some things about energy savings for your building, or, when like we just had the Clean Buildings Act go through in Washington, and now Oregon is adapting that as well. And so, a lot of facility managers are going to have to start keeping track of what upgrades they're doing for their buildings as far as energy use goes. And if they don't, they're going to start getting fined. And a lot of them don't know about that yet, or they're just not aware of it, or they think it's, that's next summer. No, they're going to start fining you next summer. So let's get ahead of that now. And so we've been doing a lot of programs to help teach what to look for, what different tiers does your building qualify for this, et cetera. So it's been really fun to just learn for myself about other careers or other things to think about, what people are dealing with in their day to day, to kind of relate to them more. And just building our chapter, we've grown, our chapter's grown a lot over the last 5 years. And we've really changed a lot of things. We've grown our committees, we've shuffled things around. And last year we had a big symposium at the Nike headquarters, and it was all about wellness. So I was the chair of it last year as the vice president, and I wanted people to focus on the health of their buildings, but then the health of our environment. So we had different track systems about each of those topics, and then the health of your body. Like, we are dealing with all of this, but also you need to make sure you're healthy and the people you work with are healthy. So I scheduled a lady to come in at the end of our symposium to do a sound bath with everybody. And I don't know if you've experienced one of those. I highly recommend, if you have never done a sound bath, like, look one up in your local area, because it is so relaxing. You just lay down. We didn't lay down. We just put our heads on desks, but you just listen to these haunting melodies, these ringing bowls. And she just, did different noises or brought chimes around, like walked chimes around the room. And you're just supposed to completely empty your mind. And it was so rejuvenating. People at the end of that hour, they were just so shocked how good they felt. After like a whole day of sitting in class and learning, and then we just had a reset. So it was very cool to focus on wellness and try to bring that to right in front of people. Yeah.
Right. It's like, this is why you need to take a break sometimes at work, or this is why you need, to bring that biophilic design into your work environment. Like you're showing it to them right in real time. So I think that's amazing. Cool. Well, do you want to cover anything else, or do you think we covered it all?
I mean, there's so much more I could talk about.
We could probably talk for like 5 hours.
Forever. But be sure to follow me on LinkedIn. I post a lot of different articles about biophilic design or just statistics or what we're doing in the Portland market. So if you're in Portland, be sure to say hi and tell me you listen to the podcast. But check me out on LinkedIn, Paige Tisdale. I work at Genesis 7 Dees. Also, I want to plug Green Plants for Green Buildings. I'm part of a nonprofit. We bridge the gap between interior plantscapers and architects, designers, the built environment professionals. Facility managers being part of that. And we just have a lot of articles that talk about biophilic design and what it does for the office space, for buildings, and how to incorporate that into your space. So there's a lot of galleries to look at, a lot of research papers that we're collecting. And then you can also schedule CEU classes based on, I think we have like 10 different classes. There's one about moss walls. There's one about how to specify living walls for your space as well, what to think about as far as like planning and light and access. And then there's the economics of biophilic design, which dives in deep on what biophilic design is doing to your body and regulating your stress and anxiety and all of those things, which is really it's probably my favorite one. And then there's a class about how biophilic design relates to Fit Well, and the Living Building Challenge, and a little bit of LEED as well. But you can kind of see if your building is going after those certifications where biophilic design can help check off boxes for you. So it's pretty cool.
Love that. And we will have all of that on our webpage at openworksweb.com. So under the podcast. So we'll put all those resources. I'll make sure I get them from you, Paige, as well as images. So thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us about moss walls and biophilic design. And, a tree is not just a tree. It contains multitudes, I think.
Yeah.
So, and how plants can help us, get through the day and make us better people. So thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Enjoying the podcast? Leave a review. To otherwise support our podcast, please share and follow us on your favorite streaming platform. You can also visit our website to find show notes and more info on each episode at www.openworksweb.com/podcast. Want to be a guest on an upcoming podcast? Check out the information in the description to apply. We'll see you next time, and remember, keep it clean.